Story time of how I found out that my mom was putting our dad's ashes in our food. Yep, our mom would put our dead dad's ashes in our dinner. So basically, after my dad died, my mom showed zero emotion. It's like she really didn't care at all. Like she kind of wanted it to happen. His death was like an unsolved case, and nobody knows how he actually died. And now that I get to think about it, it might have been my mom, but I don't want to jump to conclusions. And if it was her and she sees this video, I don't want to end up like him. Anyways, back to the story. So about a month after he died, she would always post a picture of me and my brother's dinner with the caption, "You'll always be with them." Literally every single night. And honestly, nobody really caught on. All the comments were like, we're praying, this and that. Until one day I was just sitting on the couch and I look over and my mom was pouring something into the mashed potatoes. So I go a little closer and I see her pouring the ashes of my dad into our mashed potatoes. Listen, this story only gets 10 times worse, so like for a part 2.
In high school, I had a friend who lived in this old, small apartment building. And on the first floor was this old guy named Dave who had apparently lived in the building forever. And no one really knew what Dave's deal was. The only time people saw him is when he walked outside to walk his tiny dog. But other than that, he never left his apartment. He had a nephew who delivered him groceries once a week. My friend just assumed that Dave was too old or had some sort of sickness that prevented him from leaving the house. One day, my friend was coming home from school and Dave's nephew was leaving the apartment building. And my friend is really sweet, so she was like, "Hey, I know Dave sometimes has troubles getting out of the house, so if you ever need me to go over there and bring him something, let me know. I'm always happy to help." And the nephew looked really shocked and terrified. He was like, "No, you should never go over to Dave's ever." And then he got really awkward and he was like, "Okay, gotta go, bye." And then a few weeks later, my friend was coming home from a Halloween party late at night. And when she got inside her apartment building, Dave's door on the first floor was wide open. And it was pitch black inside his apartment. But then she heard something behind her. In high school.
This is part 2 of why you should never do an Ouija board. So after it said its name was Tick, we asked how old it was. The spirit responded with 9 years old. We asked what gender it was. There was no response. We knew for sure at this point we were not talking to one of our great-grandparents. I wanted to stop right then and there. I was really freaked out and I knew that we weren't talking to something good, but my older stepsister wanted to keep going. So out of peer pressure, of course, I kept going. She asked if it was human. Its response was no. We asked if we were safe. The spirit said yes, but I really didn't feel safe. We asked if the spirit was stuck in the house. The response was yes. The next thing my older stepsister asked, which I really wish she didn't, is if Tick was the only one there with us. The response was no. 60 seconds is not enough time for this story, and the story is really long, so stay tuned for part 3.
So last night, something a little scary happened. So I would call myself a relatively deep sleeper, and I don't really wake up in the middle of the night that much, or I haven't recently. And that was up until last night. So last night I went to bed around like 1 a.m. And when I say I passed out. So I'm sleeping and all of a sudden I wake up at around 3:53 a.m. And when I woke up, for some reason I was wide awake, not tired at all, not groggy, nothing. So I sit up out of my bed and I start looking around when I notice the living room lights right next to my room are on, even though I fall asleep with them off every night. And I have like this tapestry covering my room from the living room. And since the lights were on, I could see into the living room. And I saw somebody standing right here. Right here. So I jumped out of bed, swung the fucking curtain open, and nobody was there. I'm really hoping that was just a dream.
This is why you should never friend random people on Roblox Part 1. One day, I joined a random game on Roblox. Out of nowhere, this random guy started chasing me. He started asking me weird questions like where am I from and what's my real name. So of course I started getting scared. He stopped chasing me for a while, and I thought he left, but I was wrong. Because I didn't know what would end up happening. On the Roblox chat, he started asking me the same questions that he did in the game. So I started getting really worried, so I told my parents. My parents said it was really dangerous, so they told me to unfriend him. I tried unfriending him, but then it said something went wrong. So it wouldn't let me unfriend him. I'm running out of time, like for part 2.
The address of your emergency.
Hello, 911. Hello? Do you need help? Where are you? Hold on 1 second. I can't hear you, okay? Say it again. I can't hear you, dear. Can you speak up just a tad bit louder? Say it again. I'm going to listen very hard. 701? 77? 1707? Okay, hold on one second. I need somebody to pull my channel. Thank you. That's okay. I understand you're having a hard time. Say it again, okay? I'm trying to hear you.
I'm going to be telling you the scary story of the house I lived in elementary and middle school. It was a 3-bedroom house, 1 bedroom in the basement, and 2 bedrooms upstairs. Because I was the oldest, I got put in the bedroom in the basement. Right when we moved in, I already had creepy feelings about the house. I hated being downstairs by myself. One day I dropped a $20 bill behind my dresser. I decided to move my dresser all by myself, and behind the dresser was this door. It wasn't a normal door, it was really short and just squared. It was also glued off, so I couldn't get into it. Me and my neighbor, who were best friends, worked at it for days to get into it. We finally got it open, and inside was another room. It was almost like an underground attic. The walls were wooden, the ceiling was wooden, there was no carpet, but it smelled awful. My parents found out and they were super mad at me for opening the room. They of course put that dresser in front of that door for a reason because they knew I would explore it. But after that, things started to get weird. Stay tuned for part 2.
Help me, I'm Amanda Berry.
You need police, fire, or ambulance.
I need police.
Okay, and what's going on there?
I've been kidnapped and I've been missing for 10 years and I'm here, I'm free now.
Okay, and what's your address?
2207 Seymour Avenue.
2207 Seymour. Looks like you're calling me from 2210.
Huh?
Looks like you're calling me from 2210.
I can't hear you.
It looks like you were calling me from 2210 Seymour.
Yeah, I'm across the street, I'm using this phone.
Okay, stay there with those neighbors. Talk to the police when they get there.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, talk to the police when they get there.
Okay. Hello?
Yeah, talk to the police when they get there.
Okay, I'm gonna right now. I
We're
need
going
them
to send
now.
them as soon as we get a car open.
No, I need them now before we get back.
All right, we're sending them, okay?
Okay, I mean, like,
Who's the guy? Who's the guy you're who's the guy who went out?
His name is Ariel Castro.
All right.
Storytime. Our house had to be cleansed of a demonic presence. I had just gotten out of a relationship that I had been in for 5 years. I had to pack up my stuff from his house, move out, and I was mentally all over the place. One of my friends that I'll either tag below or in the comments had just bought a house during this time, so it was kind of perfect for me to move in with her. The house was beautiful, had very cottage vibes, but there was something about the shed in the back, and I'll insert a picture. It was filled with religious symbols and Mod Podge all over the wall. There was lights in there like people were trying to grow, and it just seemed like a lot of teenage experimentation happened back there. But overall, the house was nice and was totally checked out by the inspector. Soon after I started to move in, that's whenever spots would occur on the ceiling. It was happening a lot on my side of the house as if there was water damage. However, we didn't know where the water damage was coming from and she had had the house inspected. This is when she started to have extremely vivid nightmares that bled over into the day. She would wake up and see shadowy figures hanging over her. I kind of just thought she was tired due to night shift at first, but that's when I got my first sleep paralysis episode. It gets way worse, so stay tuned for part 2 and follow me on it.
Okay, so here's a scary story time on how I found someone staring at me in my sleep. So basically, I used to go on FaceTime with my friend like every single night and fall asleep on the phone. And basically, I told her it was like 2 in the morning. I was just going to go to sleep for like 30 minutes and tell her to wake me up in 30 minutes. So I fell asleep and she ended up not being able to wake me up and she just hung up. But then I woke up about like 4 in the morning and I saw a text on my phone from her and I thought it was just a regular text. But that was not the case. Basically, it was a picture of me sleeping and someone was in the corner of my room staring at me. And it wasn't like a shadow or anything, like you could clearly see it. And she just texted me and she was like, what is this? I was terrified. It was a man in a black coat and I can show the picture if you want me to, but it was literally terrifying. And I didn't sleep in my room for like months. I slept on the couch for months.
One day I was on call to my best friend. We were just chatting like normal best friends do. Anyway, we were playing Roblox and all of a sudden her light turned off. She started screaming, so I started laughing because her scream sounded like a dead roach. Then she stopped screaming. I didn't even notice because I was about to piss myself. The light turned back on and she wasn't in the room. I stopped pissing myself and I heard her saying help me. I didn't know what was happening, so I ignored her as she always plays pranks on me. Out of nowhere she came running into the room doing this wired laugh and saying, "We don't like Lily." Then the light turned off and back on. She was just sitting there saying, "Lily, what game do you want to play?" like nothing happened.
One day, we were in class. I was in band at the time, and the classroom phone rang, and the teacher went and he answered the phone. He got really serious, he got this really concerned, shocked look on his face, and he hung it up and he turned to us and he said, "Everybody sit down, be quiet. The bell's going to ring in a couple minutes. You're going to stay seated." And then he went over to the doors and he locked them. And we were just like, oh shit, what is happening? And at first some of us were like, well, is it a bomb threat? Because we used to get bomb threats all the time, but then we realized that doesn't make sense because when we get a bomb threat, they evacuate us. And then we're like, is there some type of killer in the school? Is there a weather alert? Is there a terrorist attack? And none of us knew anything. The teacher wouldn't answer any questions. He was told not to. And the bell rang. We all stayed seated and we sat there for a really, really long time, and then the next bell rang, which means a whole other class period had passed, and still he said stay seated. And I can't tell you how long we were trapped in this room and nobody was telling us what was going on. We're all getting really scared and panicking.